Hello students, welcome to the tea processing course. Today we will learn the final part of black tea knowledge, the processing technology of Gongfu black tea. Gongfu black tea is widely produced in China, with tea growing regions such as Hubei, Yunnan, Anhui, Fujian, Hunan, and Sichuan all engaging in its production. Although the quality of Gongfu black tea varies across regions, the processing methods are largely the same. Gongfu black tea requires fresh tea leaves that are tender and uniform, with the plucking standard primarily being 1 bud and 2 or 3 leaves. The primary processing steps for Gongfu black tea are withering, boiling, fermentating, and drying. Let's examine each step in detail. Withering. There are various methods of withering, including indoor natural withering, sunlight withering, trough withering, machine withering, and various forms of heating withering. However, the most commonly used methods today are indoor natural withering, sunlight withering, and trough withering. In production, the degree of withering is mainly determined by sensory evaluation. When squeezed, the leaves feel soft, and when clenched into a ball, they slowly loosen upon release. The surface luster of the leaves disappears, the color turns dark green, the grassy odor diminishes, and a fresh fragrance emerges. The optimal moisture content for withered leaves is 60% to 64%. The degree of withering varies slightly with the season. Spring leaves, which have higher moisture content, should be withered more heavily with a moisture content of 60% to 62%. Summer leaves, which have lower moisture content, should be withered more lightly with a moisture content of 62% to 64%. Depending on the tenderness of the leaves, the principle of heavy withering for tender leaves, light withering for old leaves should be followed. Generally, the guideline is to prefer lighter over heavier, strictly avoiding overwithering. Rolling. The main factors affecting rolling are temperature and humidity, the amount of leaves loaded, time, the number of rolling cycles, pressure application techniques, and bowl breaking and sifting. Thorough rolling creates favorable conditions for fermentating. Insufficient rolling results in loose strips, difficulty in fermentating, weak flavor, light tea liquor, and bluish-green infused leaves. Overrolling, on the other hand, leads to broken strips, dull tea liquor, weak flavor, low aroma, and dark red infused leaves. Properly rolled leaves are tightly curled, with tea juice fully expressed but not lost. The strip formation rate should reach 95%, and the cell disruption rate should exceed 80%. Fermentating. Fermentating is a key step in shaping the quality of black tea. It is a process involving a series of chemical changes, primarily the oxidation of polyphenolic compounds under enzymatic action. The fermentating of black tea takes place in a fermentating room, with the main influencing factors being temperature, humidity, oxygen supply, leaf spreading thickness, and fermentating time. Temperature. This includes both air temperature and leaf temperature. Air temperature directly affects leaf temperature, but it is the leaf temperature that primarily influences fermentating. During fermentating, oxidation generates heat, raising the leaf temperature. Generally, leaf temperature is 2 to 4 degrees Celsius higher than air temperature. The ideal leaf temperature is 30 degrees Celsius, so the air temperature should be maintained at 26 to 28 degrees Celsius. Humidity. Humidity includes both the moisture content of the fermentating leaves and the relative humidity of the air. The moisture content of the fermentating leaves depends on the degree of withering. A moisture content of around 60% in withered leaves is necessary for proper rolling and facilitates the exchange and oxidation of substances during fermentating. The relative humidity should generally be above 95%. In production, methods such as sprinkling water, misting, or covering with damp cloths are often used to increase humidity. Oxygen supply. The fermentating of black tea is an oxygen-consuming process, with oxygen consumption gradually decreasing during fermentating. Therefore, it is essential to ensure proper air circulation during fermentating. Additionally, the thickness of the leaf layer should be controlled, as overly thick layers can hinder oxygen supply. Leaf spreading thickness. The thickness of the leaf layer directly affects ventilation and leaf temperature. The typical thickness is 8 to 12 centimeters. Tender leaves and smaller leaves should be spread thinly, while older leaves and larger leaves can be spread thicker. In colder temperatures, thicker layers are appropriate, while thinner layers are better in higher temperatures. Regardless of thickness, the leaves should be loosened and not compacted to ensure smooth air intake during fermentating. During fermentating, the leaves should be turned and shaken once or twice to promote ventilation. Fermentating time. The fermentating time varies depending on the degree of rolling, leaf tenderness, and environmental conditions, generally taking 3 to 4 hours. Fermentating degree. Controlling the degree of fermentating is a critical aspect of black tea fermentating technology. It is primarily assessed by observing changes in color, aroma, and temperature. Properly fermented leaves exhibit a fresh floral or fruity aroma and a copper red color. If the leaves have a grassy odor and appear green or greenish yellow, fermentating is insufficient. If the leaves are dark red and the aroma shifts from rich to weak, fermentating is excessive. In production, the fermentating degree is generally kept on the lighter side, following the principle of prefer lighter over heavier. This is because under-fermentating can be remedied during drying, often by low-temperature roasting, while over-fermentating is irreparable and adversely affects quality. Drying. Drying is the final step in Gongfu black tea processing, and the last stage that determines its quality. Drying is typically done using a tea roasting machine, divided into 2 stages, first firing and final firing, with a resting period for moisture redistribution in between. The key techniques in drying involve temperature, leaf spreading thickness, and time. Temperature. The technique during drying is high temperature and quick drying for first firing, low temperature and prolonged baking for final firing. Generally, when using a baking basket, the temperature for first firing should be 85 to 90 degrees Celsius, and for final firing, 70 to 80 degrees Celsius. When using a tea roasting machine, the air inlet temperature for first firing should be 110 to 120 degrees Celsius, not exceeding 130 degrees Celsius, while for final firing, it should be 85 to 95 degrees Celsius, not exceeding 100 degrees Celsius. Leaf spreading thickness. The principle for leaf spreading thickness during black tea drying is thin spreading for first firing, thick spreading for final firing. Drying time. First firing uses high temperatures and is generally shorter, lasting 10 to 15 minutes. Final firing uses low temperatures and slow baking, lasting 15 to 20 minutes. Drying degree. The degree of drying is primarily determined by experience and moisture content. For first firing, a moisture content of 20% to 25% is acceptable, while for final firing, it should be 4% to 6%. Additionally, empirical judgments can be made. After first firing, the leaves are 70% to 80% dry, with the strips mostly hard and dry, and the tender stems still slightly soft. After final firing, the leaves are fully dry, the stems snap easily when bent, and the strips can be crushed into fine powder by hand, with the leaves appearing dark black and glossy. In this lesson, we have detailed the processing technology of Gongfu black tea. Over these sessions, we have covered the production and sales status, quality characteristics, and processing techniques of black tea, as well as providing detailed explanations of the processing methods for Souchong black tea and Gongfu black tea. Black tea has effects such as refreshing and relieving fatigue, promoting saliva production, and clearing heat. If you are interested, you can try drinking black tea to see if it suits your taste. That's all for this lesson. Goodbye, students.